Millionaire hires poor teacher as nanny, but what he discovers on first day shocks him. Victor Lane was no ordinary millionaire. He lived in a penthouse that kissed the clouds over Manhattan, a life wrapped in marble, glass, and the kind of silence that money can afford. A reclusive figure, he rarely emerged from the shadows of his luxurious apartment. But one fateful day, the silence shattered. His young son, Max, needed a caretaker. With his former nanny disappearing like morning mist, Clara Collins, a struggling schoolteacher with bills piling up, found herself thrust into Victor's extravagant world. Clara's first impression was like stepping onto a movie set. The opulence felt surreal. Gold accents gleamed under the sophisticated lighting, and art pieces whispered stories of wealth and power. A faint tremor of anxiety gripped her as she approached the lavish living room where she first met Max. He was a tiny whirlwind of energy, his youthful laughter echoing off the walls. But behind the laughter lay a sadness she couldn't quite place. As days turned into weeks, Clara navigated a terrain of responsibility that felt as elevated as her surroundings. She struggled to cater to Max's whims, all while feeling like an outsider peering through a window into a vibrant life she could never afford. Draped in designer clothes, Victor appeared to be a man of confidence, yet Clara noticed shadows flickering in his dark eyes. It was during one of her cleaning sprees, while tidying the perfectly arranged guest room, that her world tilted again. Hidden amidst the plush pillows, Clara discovered an old diary bound in distressed leather. She opened it, the musty scent of aged paper triggering a morbid curiosity. As she read the entries, her heart raced. Each word revealed layers of Victor's troubled childhood, a tumult of trauma and unresolved anguish, stories of neglect, violence, and a haunting event that changed everything. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she delved deeper, sensing a bizarre connection between their lives. Late nights spent with Max turned to quiet moments with Victor. He began to open up, sharing fragmented memories and insights, revealing a man battling his past. Yet, the deeper he let Clara in, the more the specter of his childhood loomed over them. It gnawed at Victor's aliveness, like weeds choking a garden. Just as Clara grasped the weight of her discovery, a shadow fell across their lives. Detective Lewis, a tenacious investigator, knocked on Victor's door, probing into the depths of a long-buried crime. Rumors floated through the city, whispers that dredged up fear and intrigue. Clara's heart raced as she realized her quiet influence over Victor's life could either save or shatter him. He was a father seeking redemption, and she held the key to his darkest secrets. Clara stood there, the diary clutched in her trembling hands. The pages felt alive with secrets that could unravel everything. Would she step into the storm and confront Victor, risking their fragile bond for the sake of truth? Or would she protect their fragile futures by keeping silent? The air thickened with tension, and her heart raced with the enormity of it all, leaving readers on the verge of what was to come.
Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer um alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Clara stood there, the diary clutched in her trembling hands. The air in the luxurious penthouse felt thick with unspoken truths and secrets. Her mind raced as she weighed the implications of what she had uncovered. Should she confront Victor? The thought churned her stomach, but the nagging feeling of duty pushed her towards action. Suddenly, the ringing of the doorbell sliced through her thoughts. She jumped, heart pounding. Was it Detective Lewis already? A wave of anxiety swept over her. She carefully tucked the diary away, hoping Victor wouldn't notice her agitation. "Clara?" Victor called from the other room. "Can you get that, please?" With nervous steps, she made her way to the door. As she opened it, reality morphed into something surreal. A woman stood there, her face pale as a ghost. Her eyes were wide and frantic, and she was wearing a rain-soaked trench coat. "Can I help you?" Clara asked, bewildered. "I'm sorry to intrude." The woman gasped, nearly breaking into tears. "Is Victor Lane here? I need to speak to him. It's urgent." Before Clara could respond, the woman pushed past her. "Victor!" she shouted, her voice trembling. Clara's stomach dropped. Who was this woman? Why did she seem so desperate? Just as she turned to call for Victor, he emerged from the hallway, his expression shifting from confusion to shock. "Anna!" he exclaimed, eyes darting between Clara and the newcomer. "What are you doing here?" "Victor, I know you don't want to see me, but it's important." Anna's hands clenched into fists, her breath coming in quick bursts. "I came to warn you. They're coming for you." Victor's face paled further. "What are you talking about?" Clara's head spun. This was the moment that shifted everything. The weight of the diary, the shadows in Victor's eyes, and now this woman's urgent plea. Everything was connected in ways she hadn't imagined. "Detective Lewis, he's digging deeper. There are things in your past that could ruin you." Anna's voice shook. "She?" Clara cut in, her heart pounding in her chest. Victor shot her a look, eyes narrowing. "Clara, please." "No, I need to know why she's here." Clara pressed on, the edges of her voice sharp with uncertainty. "Because she's part of my past," Victor blurted out, a flash of vulnerability slicing through his composed demeanor. Clara felt as if the ground below her had shifted. She's my sister." Clara's jaw dropped. This was beyond anything she had prepared for. An emotional scar ran between them, deep and festering. "Your sister? I didn't know you had a sister," Clara stammered, confusion warring with her sense of betrayal. "Is that why?" "Yes," Victor interrupted, desperation creeping into his tone. "I didn't want anyone to know. She was the only person who—" Anna stepped forward, her emotions spilling over. "Victor, you have to listen to me. It's not just about you anymore. We're in danger because of what happened back then. You need to come clean before it's too late." Suddenly, they heard the ominous sound of sirens. In the distance, Clara's eyes widened as dread pooled in her stomach. The sirens grew louder, swelling with urgency. Victor's expression hardened. "You have to leave now, Anna. I'll handle it." "No, you have to face this," Anna cried, panic coursing through her voice. In that moment, Clara felt as if the walls were closing in. Every secret she held, every revelation that blossomed around her, seemed poised to erupt into chaos. The bond she had begun to forge with Victor now hung by a thread. With the sirens approaching like a dark cloud, Clara made a choice. "I'll help you, Victor, but you need to tell me everything. No more secrets." As the urgency thickened and Victor's past loomed like a specter, Clara realized they were all standing on a precipice together, teetering towards an unknown depth. It was time to confront the truth. What would happen next? What terrifying truths lay ahead as they faced the ghosts of yesterday?
Clara stood there, the diary clutched in her trembling hands. The air in the luxurious penthouse felt thick with unspoken truths and secrets. Her mind raced as she weighed the implications of what she had uncovered. Should she confront Victor? The thought churned her stomach, but the nagging feeling of duty pushed her towards action. Suddenly, the ringing of the doorbell sliced through her thoughts. She jumped, heart pounding. Was it Detective Lewis already? A wave of anxiety swept over her. She carefully tucked the diary away, hoping Victor wouldn't notice her agitation. "Clara!" Victor called from the other room. "Can you get that, please?" With nervous steps, she made her way to the door. As she opened it, reality morphed into something surreal. A woman stood there, her face pale as a ghost. Her eyes were wide and frantic, and she was wearing a rain-soaked trench coat. "Can I help you?" Clara asked, bewildered. "I'm sorry to intrude," the woman gasped, nearly breaking into tears. "Is Victor Lane here? I need to speak to him. It's urgent." Before Clara could respond, the woman pushed past her. "Victor!" she shouted, her voice trembling. Clara's stomach dropped. Who was this woman? Why did she seem so desperate? Just as she turned to call for Victor, he emerged from the hallway, his expression shifting from confusion to shock. "Anna!" he exclaimed, eyes darting between Clara and the newcomer. "What are you doing here?" "Victor, I know you don't want to see me, but it's important." Anna's hands clenched into fists, her breath coming in quick bursts. "I came to warn you. They're coming for you." Victor's face paled further. "What are you talking about?" Clara's head spun. This was the moment that shifted everything. The weight of the diary, the shadows in Victor's eyes, and now this woman's urgent plea. Everything was connected in ways she hadn't imagined. "Detective Lewis, he's digging deeper. There are things in your past that could ruin you." Anna's voice shook, and Clara couldn't hold back. "I'm sorry, who is she?" Clara cut in, her heart pounding in her chest. Victor shot her a look, eyes narrowing. "Clara, please." "No, I need to know why she's here," Clara pressed on, the edges of her voice sharp with uncertainty. "Because she's part of my past," Victor blurted out, a flash of vulnerability slicing through his composed demeanor. Clara felt as if the ground below her had shifted. She's my sister." Clara's jaw dropped. This was beyond anything she had prepared for. An emotional scar ran between them, deep and festering. "Your sister? I didn't know you had a sister," Clara stammered, confusion warring with her sense of betrayal. "Is that why, then?" "Yes," Victor interrupted, desperation creeping into his tone. "I didn't want anyone to know. She was the only person who—" Anna stepped forward, her emotions spilling over. "Victor, you have to listen to me. It's not just about you anymore. We're in danger. Because of what happened back then, you need to come clean before it's too late." Suddenly, they heard the ominous sound of sirens in the distance. Clara's eyes widened as dread pooled in her stomach. The sirens grew louder, swelling with urgency. Victor's expression hardened. "You have to leave now, Anna. I'll handle it." "No, you have to face this!" Anna cried, panic coursing through her voice. In that moment, Clara felt as if the walls were closing in. Every secret she held, every revelation that blossomed around her, seemed poised to erupt into chaos. The bond she had begun to forge with Victor now hung by a thread. Then, the unexpected happened. The door bust open, and in stormed Detective Lewis, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. "Victor Lane, you're under arrest," he bellowed, his voice piercing the air. Clara's heart dropped as the world around her spun. She looked at Victor, whose face drained of color. Anna gasped, clutching her stomach in shock. "It's not what you think," Victor shouted. glancing back and forth between Anna and the detective. "You don't understand." "Save it for the station," Lewis retorted, glaring at Clara. "You too, you're involved in this." There it was, the moment everything cascaded into chaos. A chilling realization gripped Clara. What had she stumbled into? Was Victor truly the victim he portrayed himself to be? Or was there a darker side she hadn't seen? As the officers moved in to cuff Victor, Clara struggled to breathe. She felt the weight of the diary pressing against her, the secrets it held roiling in her stomach. What was Anna hiding? What could Victor possibly have done that brought them to this moment? As the sirens echoed loudly outside, she realized she was standing at the center of a storm, unsure whether to aid the man she had come to care for, or to step away from a truth that could destroy them all. With every second ticking by, the walls closed in even more. The past, present, and future tangled together in a web of confusion. Now, everything was at stake. Not just Victor's freedom, but Clara's heart, her trust, and their fragile connection. What truth lay behind those darkened eyes, and how far was Clara willing to go to uncover it? The night was just beginning, and the echoes of the past had only started to haunt them. As the officers moved in to cuff Victor, Clara struggled to breathe. The weight of the diary pressed against her, a heavy reminder of the secrets it held. Everything was spiraling out of control. Just then, she noticed movement from the corner of her eye. A small figure darted into the room. Max, Victor's son, his face streaked with tears. "Daddy!" Max cried, his voice piercing through the chaos. He ran to Victor, flinging his tiny arms around his father's waist. "Don't go!" Clara's heart ached at the sight. Victor, caught between the officers and his son, looked agonized. "Max, sweetheart, it's okay," he said, his voice trembling as he tried to soothe the boy while he was being restrained. But the desperation in Max's eyes told a different story. "Get him out of here, please!" Victor shouted at the officers, panic washing over his face. "I can't let him see this!" The lead detective narrowed his eyes, looking between the crying child and Victor. "We're just doing our job, sir." But Clara could see that his resolve was wavering. "Wait!" Anna interjected, panic rising. "You don't understand. There's something you all need to know." She was shaking now, her urgency palpable. But before she could say more, there was a sudden, loud crashing sound from the penthouse balcony. Glass shattered, and Clara whipped her head around, her heart racing. A figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted against the darkening sky. "Victor!" the figure shouted, and Clara's breath caught in her throat as he stepped into the light. It was a man she recognized from the diary, the person Victor had written about. The memories fell into place like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. "You need to run, now!" "What are you doing here?" Victor exclaimed, shock and fear blending on his face. "I thought I told you to stay away." "Not after what I found out," the man cried, desperation lacing his words. "They know about the past, Victor. They're on to us. We have to go now, before it's too late." "Who are you?" Detective Lewis barked, stepping closer as he attempted to assess the situation. But the man ignored him, his eyes locked onto Victor. "Your secret isn't just yours anymore. They want you, and they want Anna too. They're coming for both of you," he shouted, the urgency in his voice making Clara's skin crawl. Clara looked at Anna, who was pale as a ghost, eyes wide with fear. "What do you mean? What secret?" She felt a dreadful knot tightening in her stomach. What was going on?
Then it hit her. The pieces fit together like a twisted puzzle, revealing something that made her head spin. "Is it true?" Clara's voice shook as she turned. To Victor. "Is that why you're in trouble? Because of your past?" Victor's face was a mask of anguish. "Clara, please." Before he could finish, the sirens grew louder, and the urgent shouts of officers echoed through the hallway, melding into a chaotic symphony of anxiety. Clara felt the walls closing in. "Run!" the man yelled again. "You don't have much time." But before Victor could make a move or even say one more word, a loud crack rang through the air. It was a gunshot. Clara froze, her blood running cold. The world faded into silence as she turned to see the source of the noise. A figure emerged from the hallway. A police officer, now crumpling to the ground, clutching his shoulder. The chaos erupted. "Get down!" someone shouted. Panic swallowed the room as everyone ducked. "Go! Now!" The man grabbed Victor's hand, pulling him toward the door. "Take Max! Don't stop!" Clara's heart raced. She knew she should run too. But where? The truth crashed down around her like a wave, drowning her in confusion. Victor was hiding something monumental, and now everything they built was collapsing. "Daddy!" Max cried, shrieking in terror. "Don't leave me!" As the scene erupted into chaos around her, Clara was torn. Should she follow them into the unknown, or confront the reality hiding behind Victor's facade? The world seemed to spin faster, and all she could feel was the impending doom closing in. What had just happened? What truth had been unleashed? And most importantly, who was coming for them all? The only thing Clara knew was that they were standing at the brink of disaster, with nowhere to turn. A new era of secrets had just begun. Clara felt the air fill with terror as gunfire pierced the chaos. Time seemed to slow as she watched Victor's eyes widen in horror. The pandemonium around them erupted into wild shouts and frantic movements. Max, still clinging to his father, screamed, and the sound cut through Clara like a knife. "Get down!" a voice thundered, the urgency echoing against the marble walls of the penthouse. Clara hit the ground, her heart racing. The figure who had burst through the balcony door was shouting, but the world around her faded into a blur of sirens and confusion. She turned her head, trying to gauge the threat. The man whom Victor once seemed to trust was now at the center of chaos, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. "Victor, we need to go," he shouted, voice strained with desperation. "Now!" In that moment, the reality of the situation slammed into Clara. This escape plan was spiraling out of control. Victor was wanted, his past shadowed with darkness. His sister Anna was panic-stricken and confused. And now, a gun had been fired, and everything was crumbling around them. The world around her exploded with noise. Officers were shouting commands, and a flurry of movement surrounded her. Clara crawled against the cold floor, her mind racing. She had only wanted to help Max, to uncover the truth, but the truth had ignited chaos. She noticed Victor, now face to face with the man from the balcony. "Why did you follow me?" Victor's voice was low but filled with anger. "I had to warn you. They know," the man replied, glancing at the officers moving closer. Just then, a loud bang resounded again, this time from the other side of the room. Clara's stomach dropped as she turned to see one of the officers struggling with a suspect, another figure emerging from the shadows, a woman, wild-eyed, her face twisted with rage. "Victor!" she screamed, her voice echoing in the chaos. "You think you can run from this?" Clara's
Heart pounded in her chest. Who was this woman? A part of Victor's past, too? Sharon. Victor's voice faltered, recognition ripping through his expression. Before he could respond, the woman lunged, making a beeline for Max. In a split second, everything inside Clara shifted. "Get away from him!" Clara screamed, launching herself toward Max. But she was too late. The woman snatched him up, fear flashing across the child's face as he cried out for his father. "No!" Victor shouted, his body tensing as he tried to break free from the officer's grip. "Run, Clara!" Victor's voice broke through the chaos, desperation in his eyes. "Just take him! Get out while you can!" The sudden urgency pushed her into motion. Clara rushed forward, but Sharon was quicker, dragging Max closer to the balcony. "Stop!" Clara shouted, reaching out. In that moment, everything changed. The ground beneath them seemed to tremble. A deep, rumbling sound reverberated through the apartment. Clara's eyes widened as she realized it wasn't just her panic. It was an earthquake, shaking the very foundation of the penthouse. Everything began to tremble violently. The lights flickered and dimmed as Clara stumbled, gripping the wall for balance. A cacophony of glass shattering filled the air, and the officers lost their momentum, being thrown off guard. "Hold on!" Clara screamed, rushing toward where Max was held captive. Sharon's grip faltered as the tremors intensified, and in that split second of distraction, Clara seized her chance. She lunged for Max, pulling him from the woman's grasp just as the floor cracked. "Clara! No!" Victor yelled. But there was no time. The room was collapsing around them. Suddenly, Clara was thrown to the floor, Max in her arms, both of them rolling away from the chaos. A beam from the ceiling crashed down mere inches from where they had been standing. Clara gasped, her heart pounding as she looked up at Victor, who stood frozen, panic etched on his face. The world was spinning out of control, but amidst the chaos, something clicked in her mind. That woman, Sharon, what was she hiding? Why had Victor reacted with such fear? The diary, the secrets, the sudden betrayal in Victor's eyes, it was all intertwined. The truth about Victor was far more sinister than she had realized. "Clara!" he cried, and in that moment she saw it in his eyes, the secret he had hidden from her, buried deep within. As the walls shuddered and cracks spread like veins along the floor, Clara held Max tight, her heart heavy with realization. She had been drawn into something far more dangerous than just a simple job as a nanny. The earthquake wasn't just nature's fury, it was a metaphor for the upheaval in their lives, and she was right in the center of it, trapped between the truth and betrayal. What had Victor done? What was this dark past that had come roaring back to claim them all? As the dust settled, Clara knew this wasn't the end. The storm was just beginning, and the question loomed: how deep did Victor's secrets run? And would they all survive what was about to unfold? Clara held Max tightly, the tremors still shaking her body. From shock and fear, the air felt electric and chaos swirled around them. But as she looked into Victor's eyes, she noticed something she hadn't seen before, a flicker of something dark, something he had hidden deep within. The panic on his face was mixed with guilt. "Clara," he started, but words failed him, lost in the noise of the crumbling penthouse. Suddenly, the noise intensified. Officers shouted, and the urgency became palpable, spiraling out of control. Clara's breath quickened. She felt the weight of the shattered glass, the screams, echoing around her. Then came another shocking sound, a crash that silenced the room as if the world itself had paused. A figure emerged from the smoke and debris. It was a woman, dressed impeccably, but her face was twisted in anger. "Victor," she snarled, stepping forward, her eyes blazing. Clara's heart raced. She didn't recognize her, but the intensity in the room shifted. The woman, hair slicked back, glared at Victor. "You thought you could just leave? After everything you've done?" "Caitlin," Victor whispered, horror painting his features. "How? Did you?" "Don't even pretend you care," Caitlin interrupted, her voice dripping with venom. "You've left a trail of wreckage, and now you want to hide behind this facade?" Clara felt a jolt at Victor's expression. There was more to him than just secrets. There was a history intertwined with this woman. "Caitlin," he pleaded, but she interrupted, stepping closer. "You think I'd let you take Max away? You ruined my life, and now you think you can play the victim?" At that moment, a realization hit Clara, like a brick wall. Victor wasn't just hiding from the law. He was hiding from Caitlin too. But why? Just as she began to piece it all together, Caitlin's actions sent shockwaves through her mind. With a swift movement, Caitlin pulled a small, thin object from her bag, a gun, gleaming and deadly. "You have no idea how far this will go, do you?" Clara felt the world shift beneath her. The tension was so thick, she could barely breathe. Victor's expression shifted from one of desperation to rage. "Caitlin, put it down," he shouted, stepping in front of Max. But Clara couldn't move. The weight of the diary in her bag, buried under the chaotic emotions, suddenly felt monumental. The secrets it contained were now threatening to erupt like fireworks in the dark. Just then, a low rumble shook the ground again. Clara instinctively shielded Max, who was staring wide-eyed at the unfolding drama. Sirens blared louder from outside, merging with the chaos inside. "Caitlin, you don't want this," Victor said, his voice softer but filled with authority. "This isn't just your fight anymore. Watch me," Caitlin sneered, anger radiating from her. "You've taken everything from me, Victor. Now I'm going to take your son." In that moment, everything exploded. Clara's heart raced as she realized this was about more than just Victor's dark past. This was personal. The stakes had tripled, and they all stood on the edge of an abyss. But before another word could be exchanged, a loud crash sounded from behind Clara. The balcony door shattered as armed officers burst through, guns drawn. "Get on the ground. This is a police situation," they shouted, and the room filled with shouts again. Caitlin turned, caught off guard. Victor seized the opportunity to lunge toward her, knocking the gun out of her hands in a blur of desperation. But everything froze. The gun clattered to the ground, echoing in the stillness that settled for a brief moment. In that split second of distraction, someone pushed past the officers. Detective Lewis, eyes sharp as knives, and pointed a finger at Clara. "You, come here!" Her mind spun. How could the detective call her out like that? What had he seen? The world was unraveling. Secrets, betrayals, and impending doom hung in the air like a storm. Clara's heart ached with uncertainty. With pressure mounting and alliances crumbling, she realized that nothing was as it seemed. What secret had Victor hidden from her? And could she still trust him? Or was she caught in the web of his past choices? All Clara knew was that the truth was close, too close, and yet somehow out of reach. The mystery deepened as hands gripped fate around them, leaving shocking uncertainties hanging, suspended in the air, like the dust swirling from the chaos. The real danger was only beginning to show its true face. Clara held Max tightly, her heart racing as the chaos swirled around them. The air felt electric. charged with desperation. Victor stood frozen, his face a mix of fear and guilt. The world outside continued to shatter. Sirens wailed and voices screamed, drowning out everything else. "Clara!" Victor's voice shook, but the words held no power amid the confusion. Caitlin snarled, her eyes ablaze with fury. "You think you can run from this? You ruined everything!" "Please, let's just talk this out." Victor's plea fell flat amidst the tension, the weight of unspoken histories pressing down on them all. With a swift motion, Caitlin pulled a gun from her bag. The glint of metal caught Clara's eye, propelling her into instinctive action. "Step away from my son!" she shouted, resolve igniting her voice. "Clara, no!" Victor yelled, desperation written all over his face. But Clara didn't hesitate. She lunged, knocking into Caitlin, sending the weapon skidding across the marble floor. A loud crack echoed as the chandelier above them swung dangerously, the tremors still rumbling beneath their feet. "Get down!" Detective Lewis barked, his officers losing their grip on the situation, caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. In the chaos, Victor reached for Max, pulling him close, just as another tremor rocked the apartment. The walls shook, and glass shattered around them, enveloping them in a storm of fear and confusion. "Run! We can't!" "Stay here," Clara shouted, pulling Max tight to her chest. Victor nodded, urgency sparking in his eyes. "This way!" He led them toward the kitchen, urgency overtaking fear as they ducked through the wreckage. "Where do we go?" Clara's voice trembled, her heart pounding louder than the chaos around them. "There's a fire escape in the back." Victor's voice was fierce. But before they could reach the door, Caitlin stepped into their path once more, fury etched deep into her features. "Victor, you can't escape this. You owe me." The truth. In that instant, Clara realized it wasn't just about survival. It was about the legacy of betrayal that had led them here. Clutching Max, she turned to Victor, searching his eyes. "What is the truth, Victor? What have you done?" Before he could answer, Caitlin lunged again. Clara ducked, instinct taking over as she shielded Max. The moment was explosive, like a match igniting dry kindling. Just then, the sirens outside blared closer, and the unmistakable sound of reinforcements arrived. The pounding of boots on the concrete, the shouts of officers outside, screaming for control. "Don't let them get away," a voice yelled. Clara's heart raced faster now. "We need to move, now," she urged, gripping Victor's arm. "Clara, there's no escaping my past," he shouted, his vulnerability cracking through. "Maybe, but we can escape this," she insisted. With one last desperate look at Caitlin, Victor nodded fiercely. "Let's go." Together, they rushed through the remnants of the collapsing penthouse. Clara's resolve steadied her as she grasped Max's tiny hand. They barreled out through the back door and onto the narrow fire escape. But before they could escape completely, Clara turned back just in time to see Caitlin's face, a mix of rage and despair. "Victor!" Caitlin's voice cut through the chaos, a haunting echo of everything left unsaid. As they descended the steps, a thought struck Clara like lightning. Was Victor truly innocent in this mess? Or had his secrets woven a web too intricate to untangle? Reaching the ground, they burst into the night, sirens wailing all around them. Clara inhaled the cool air, alive with uncertainty, her heart heavy with questions. In that moment, she knew they weren't free yet. Not by a long shot. Looking over at Victor, who was still catching his breath, Clara took a step closer. "We need to figure this out, together." And as they stood in the shadows of the towering buildings, she understood something fundamental. This was just the beginning. Victor's past loomed like a dark storm on the horizon, and they would have to face it together if they had any hope of surviving. Now, more than ever, they needed to confront the truth, and the truth was waiting. Se inscreva imediatamente no canal para não perder as próximas histórias exclusivas. Este é o momento para demonstrar seu apoio. Esmague o botão de like agora para alimentar o algoritmo. Não se esqueça de inundar a seção de comentários com suas reações e teorias sobre o final. Compartilhe instantaneamente este vídeo com pelo menos 5 amigos que precisam conhecer este desfecho. Você precisa fazer isso. Não espere nem mais um segundo. Vamos juntos nessa comunidade incrível.